On the 5th of February 2025, Star Stable Online, the largest horse MMO in the world, would end up banning thousands of players for using hacks and cheats in their game. These hacks and cheats gave players the ability to code swap, switch out one horse code for another, access unrelated content, gain items they didn't want to pay for, have flying horses, and get impossible scores in races. The backlash has been quite intense, with a lot of banned players claiming they were unfairly banned, and some feeling that just swapping codes or making your horse fly should not warrant a ban because it doesn't really affect the game. But the large majority of players are happy with the bans. Cheaters would also use hacks to win at championships, an event that allowed players to race against each other in real time, and to get top scores on the individual races dispersed throughout the game. The cheaters and hackers had been a problem in Star Stable for a very long time, and this was of course very cathartic for a lot of players to see them get banned. With that being said, a lot of people have claimed that Star Stable has been pretty unfair with the bans, and that because cheaters are still in the game, the ban has technically been a complete failure. Some of these other claims are: over 100,000 players have been banned in total. No warnings were given to the players who had been cheating. Even people who cheated or used hacks years ago were also banned, which is unfair. A lot of cheaters are still in the game, so this is a fail for Star Stable Online, as I said. Players using Reshade, a program that just makes your game pretty, were also banned. Star Stable is going to lose a lot of money because they banned the cheaters. You can just get your old account back with a cheat that is being sold, so yay. And glitching can also get you banned. That's a lot of stuff to cover, but on top of all of this, there are actually questions floating around. Can you get banned for using the private server Better SSO? Why is SSO doing mass ban waves instead of consistently banning people for individual infractions? If the no tolerance policy started on the 27th of January 2025, why are people getting banned from years back? Why are we getting banned for code swapping? It really doesn't hurt anyone. And are spoiler accounts like C.C Creations also considered cheating or hacking? And if so, why haven't they been banned? We're going to be going through all of these concerns and try and determine what is going on, and then also get a little into the legality of cheats, because I do think there is an element in this that has not really been discussed in this conversation. But of course, before we get into all of that, I would like to thank my Ko-Fi supporters. Yes, I did buy my screen, I just forgot to share it with you guys because I am so damn well organized. But yes, thank you all so much for helping me get my second screen. I am having a little trouble setting it up, but I hopefully will be sorting it out in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, as always, you guys are awesome. Let's get into it. Before we do get into it, let's briefly cover what is going on and why Star Stable is cracking down on cheaters now. And it actually starts with a man called Zooey. In the last few years, Zooey has been selling a hack for Star Stable. This hack was a third-party program that ran alongside SSO and gave you the ability to give your horses wings, code swap, get items, max out reputation, etc. But the only way to get the hack was if you showed him your boobs, usually your underaged boobs. This is, of course, a problem because the majority of Star Stable players are young girls, so he had a lot of potential quote-unquote customers. I made a video on it a few months ago, but a lot of people spoke up about this, sending SSO messages, tickets, explaining to them the situation, and thanks to all of that feedback, they decided to do something. I mentioned this to help people understand why Star Stable is cracking down on cheaters or hackers, because when kids see someone with a cool coat or being able to fly, those kids will want to do that, and it could potentially lead them to people like Zooey. So removing cheaters takes away the temptation. I also want to make it clear that Star Stable has taken a very long time to do something about this. The most they have done is make a little post saying, "Stay safe online, guys." As a result, they allowed people like Zooey and his cohorts to have free reign on their servers and pull in a lot of victims for a very long time. I am sincerely angry that they took so long, but I am also relieved that they are at least doing something now. The other problem that cropped up were people who offered a quote-unquote service. The service requires you to give them your account details, and then they will use that to log into your account, give you the items you paid real money for, and then log back out. As you can imagine, giving your login information can put you in a pretty bad situation, especially young kids. Please don't give out your account information to anyone. That also actually goes against terms of service, so if you do that, you could also potentially get banned. There is no guarantee that you will not get banned, so be careful. But all of this resulted in the post they made on the 17th of December 2024, which specifically addressed cheating in SSO. And I quote, "This will make the game safer for our younger players who are especially vulnerable to being targeted by people selling modifications of the game. This is an issue we take very seriously. Modifications are not only against our terms and conditions, but can also pose significant risks to both the player and their account." They briefly touch on how players can be unsafe, delicately avoiding the topic of PDF files, and also mention that these hackers and cheaters make servers unstable, which does seem to be true, as a lot of players have reported that these servers seem to be running a lot more smoothly since the ban. The article then continues. "Starting early next year, we will begin to ban offending accounts on a zero-tolerance basis. This is a big step toward creating a better and more secure gaming experience. We'll keep you updated as we get closer to launch." End quote. Fast forward to the 27th of January 2025, and they make another news post. They make a few clear points. People who used quote-unquote services to get those items or code without directly using the third-party program will also be banned. If you cheated in the past before the no-tolerance policy, you will also be banned. And finally, reshade is fine. Reshade is an extension that simply makes the game look pretty. But this is the last post they made on the upcoming bans before the 5th of February, when the mass ban wave took effect and thousands of accounts were promptly deleted from the game. And this leads us into the concerns from players. I'm going to start with the big one. Over 100,000 players have been banned. This is completely false. The number comes from players who really don't understand math all that well and who don't listen. So let me explain what's going on. Star Stable said that 0.5% of accounts had been banned. When players asked if these were active or inactive accounts, SSO responded with active accounts. To be active, you have to play at least 8 hours a week. I'm an inactive player. I play like 20 minutes a week and then I go play fun games. Or not so fun games. The active players in SSO is 700,000 a month. 0.5% of that comes up to around 3,500 accounts in total. A far cry from the hundreds of thousands that people are claiming. But where did this number come from? People assumed that the 0.5% was including inactive players, and 0.5% of 20 million accounts is 100,000. But it gets a little weirder. This number, 100,000 player accounts banned, got around very quickly, and it stuck in people's heads. So when SSO said only inactive players, people who didn't get the memo of the 0.5% applied the 100,000 to the 700,000 of active players and got the percentage of 14.29% of players banned. This is why listening is important. So it was a combination of misinformation, jumping to conclusions, and not reading what the hell SSO was saying that got us to this weird total. So no, 100,000 players have not been banned. Around 4,000 have probably been banned if we're being generous, as we can see when we apply 0.5% to 700,000 players. The cheaters were never warned. Technically, they were warned. With the two posts that were made in December and January, there had been some warning that this was about to happen. However, not everyone reads these blog posts and news articles, so the argument can be made that some people were simply not aware of the warning. The thing is, Star Stable doesn't have to warn you. In their terms of service, they make it clear that they can terminate your account immediately should you break TOS. So no, they didn't have to give you a warning. But now the question is, why did they do a mass banning instead of the individual bans they have been dishing out for years? Well, this is what's called a honeypot. When a cheat is detected in a game, instead of outright banning that person, the developers stay quiet. By doing so, they quietly detect and flag other players who are also using these cheats. The cheaters become complacent, they become too casual, and they are more easily found. And then the game developers put a lid on the honeypot, catching all the flies. By doing so, they catch a lot of players in one go, they learn a lot about how the cheat works, they learn how to detect it, and that then forces the cheat developers to try something new, and so the cycle begins anew. Furthermore, A mass ban works well as an overall deterrent. It could potentially scare other players enough to stop them from trying to cheat it as well. It's as much a psychological effect as a physical effect, a psychological deterrent if you will. This is what they call vicarious reinforcement, which essentially means that if you see someone you associate with get punished or rewarded for an action, you will be more than likely to avoid or imitate that action, respectively. But now we have to ask the first question in this line. Why did Star Stable decide to ban players who had used hacks or cheats years ago? And is this even fair? The no tolerance was implemented on the 27th of January 2025, but people who used the hack 7 years ago are now also getting banned. Now this I feel is a bit unfair for a few reasons. Firstly, a lot of these players were kids when they tried it. Kids do stupid shit. But secondly, this is what I feel is the most important one. For a very long time, Star Stable did little to nothing about the cheaters. They were complacent. I mentioned earlier vicarious reinforcement. This works both ways. If a peer is doing something and getting punished, you will avoid that action. But if a peer is doing that same thing and getting no repercussions, plus they are enjoying themselves, you will take part. In a way, Star Stable's complacency created the cheater problem. If they had been cracking down properly on this 5 years ago, it would probably not have been as big of an issue right now. But that being said, these players did sign the terms of service, which means they agreed not to use these programs in Star Stable, but I will get into this point a little later. Now, as for the reason why older cheaters are getting banned, I believe that the new tool that they have been running to check for cheaters is perhaps just a bit more sophisticated than it was previously. Cheaters or hackers are detected when the communication between the server, Star Stable, and the client, you, shows anomalies or strange behavior. An example would be if your reputation is maxed out with all factions in a single day. This would not be possible with Star Stable's daily grind, so it would be flagged as potential cheating. The previous cheat detection they tried to implement was in June of 2022 when they added GameGuard to their game. This resulted in players getting flagged for using Discord and other innocuous programs. GameGuard would further dig into the kernel of operating systems and ended up creating a lot of problems for a lot of players. They had to walk back that one pretty damn fast. But anti-cheat software is always evolving alongside hacker software, so detection becomes more sophisticated as time goes on. Possibly, a new tool they are using to detect hackers was simply able to detect older cheaters, and now they are banning those people as well. It could also be a deliberate action from Star Stable, going back into the archives and looking specifically at all accounts to see if they have cheated. I do still think it's a little unfair to ban people from so long ago, but I also sort of understand the predicament SSO finds themselves in. If they ban only new cheaters, those cheaters might feel it's unfair that original cheaters aren't getting the same treatment, because if they are going specifically with the terms of service, and anyone that breaks those terms of service, why aren't the older hackers or cheaters also getting banned? And believe me, that would have been the accusation if Star Stable had not banned the older offenders. You're being unfair. If you're going to ban people for breaking TOS, then ban everyone. Don't show them special treatment. I'm sorry, I know this community, and that would have been the argument. Now, the next point is that Star Stable will lose a lot of money without the cheaters. This is probably one of the strangest arguments I've heard. If you are hacking, swapping codes, and getting items without spending money, then doesn't that mean by definition that you are not spending money? So if they lose you as a client, then they are losing basically nothing. And people are very adamant about this. You will lose players, you are losing money. No, they are losing hackers. And yes, these hackers may have pumped money into SSO, but unfortunately someone who is playing fairly and buying the codes as they should are more than likely spending more than someone who has the option to simply get what they need. Let's not be unreasonable here. These cheaters or hackers are also far more likely to put their money into these services or cheat programs than they are to put their money back into SSO. So yeah, they're not really giving anything to SSO, they're giving money to the cheaters, which is also a very good incentive for Star Stable to shut them down, because they're technically taking money from Star Stable. Now, I got my problems with Star Stable, but I don't really agree with the idea of just taking money from people. That's a little weird. Don't do that. That's kind of messed up. I don't know why we're okay with this. Why are we okay with this? I don't know. I don't fucking know. I'm gonna go. I don't know where I'm going with this. Like, what the fuck? But the other point being made, which is a fair one, is that a lot of people used a workaround to purchase star coins at reduced rates by essentially fooling the website and changing where they are in the world. Some star coin packets cost more in certain countries than in others. This is a huge problem because players in America are paying a lot more for their star coins than, for example, myself in South Africa. This is an interesting problem, as the players simply do not want to pay extortionate prices for their star coins but still want to support the game. A lot of players have stopped using this workaround to stop supporting Star Stable in any way. Now, I will get into why hackers hack and cheaters cheat later, but this is a great example of how frustrated players can try to find workarounds to still enjoy their game. Now, we get into the next point. A lot of hackers were not banned. Despite the large ban wave and the many hackers banned, players are still reporting hackers in games. In fact, they were apparently protesting for a while, which I don't really understand. You broke the rules. What are you protesting? I need to understand this. Why were you protesting? Please. But the point is, a lot of these players are still in the game, and the hackers are seeing it as a win. This is perfectly normal for ban waves. You're not going to get everyone, as seen by this short poll they held in a server that had hacks. 70% were banned, 30% were not. Furthermore, hackers will start protesting about being banned. We get angry when we're caught with our hand in the cookie jar, and we're going to lash out when we're caught. They lost something that they worked on. They now have to start over, and the way to vent is to make everyone else feel their frustration. It's like throwing a tantrum when your toy gets taken away. Because remember, these people are still losing accounts, they're still losing progress, they're still losing outfits and horses and everything that they bought and put in money into, or even just got for free. They lost all of that. Despite coming back into the game and now protesting, they still lost something. But yeah, weirdly enough, seeing cheaters becoming upset is normal after ban waves. The only tricky part now is that Star Stable has to keep this consistent. They can't just do one ban wave and then fuck off into the ether. They now have to be consistent. They have to do regular ban waves every few months, and they have to keep up with the consistently changing hacks and third-party programs. As we say in South Africa, jy het nou vir jouself 'n lat gepluk. In English, you've made a rod for your own back. Basically, Star Stable, you have started something that has created a lot of work, and you're gonna have to keep up. Good luck. But apart from hackers not getting banned, we also have players that are getting unfairly banned for using reshade. Reshade, just for the record, makes your game look pretty. You can't get codes or good items with reshade, it just makes the game look nice. Star Stable made it absolutely clear that if you use reshade, then you are fine. And then, according to reports, people got banned for using reshade. In a very lovely video made by Benedicta Comet Blanket, she spoke to a few players who contacted SSO about their unfairly banned accounts. According to them, they had been using reshade 4.4 and this caused them to get flagged. This was around 2 people. Now, my initial speculation when I heard about the ban wave was that players were actually getting reported. So people using reshade would not get reported because it was solely client-side edits. But it does appear that a couple of players got knocked down by the ban wave. It wasn't many, but some did. If you did get knocked down, contact SSO and ask them to look into it again. So far, only a few true reshade bans have been reported. Also, and just to cover this point briefly, you will more than likely not get banned for using glitches. Glitches do not use third-party programs, and so you will more than likely not get flagged. But you will notice I say more than likely, as exploiting glitches can create anomalies between client and server, so don't exploit glitches willy-nilly. You might get a little slap on the wrist. Now, next up is BSSO. A brief overview. BSSO is the private server that lets players enjoy a 10-year-old version of Star Stable. The legality of this is up in the air, as private servers have been in debate for years. Some claiming it's illegal, others saying it isn't. I won't go into that now. If you want to learn more, you can go watch this video. But the question is, can you get banned for using BSSO? You probably won't get detected. The BSSO client connects to a completely different server. It's technically its own entity. Star Stable can't detect that you are playing on a different server because they don't have direct connection to your PC. That means you should be safe. But if Star Stable does figure out that you are playing on this server, that does go against TOS, that might get you banned or suspended on the basis of association. Because through the private server, you are also technically breaking terms of service, and furthermore, according to these TOS, they can ban you basically for anything. And I quote, "Star Stable also reserves the right to terminate your subscription and/or your account with immediate effect due to other reasons than stated above," giving them free rein to ban you basically for anything. I'm guessing within reason. In short, you probably won't get banned for playing better SSO, but it's never quite a guarantee. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm against private servers. I'm actually for private servers, but I'm also realistic in the fact that private servers do have the potential to put your account at risk, and in some rare cases, even your PC. Just always err on the side of caution with these types of things. That's never a bad policy to have when you're dealing with stuff on the internet in any case. However, using the BSSO open horse hack will probably get you into trouble. Again, I'll discuss this point in a little bit, as it directly connects to the horse code swap problem. For now, we'll rather take a look at the claims of players getting their accounts back through hackers. This is not true. According to the Better SSO group, it's a scam. Using these services will only lose you money and could potentially get you into even more trouble, as they can steal your information. The reason why this is not possible is the only way to reactivate your account is for Star Stable to do it server side. You cannot do it client side. It is not possible to get your account back through these services. Do not fall for this. If you have had your account unfairly banned, reach out to Star Stable. I know, believe me, I know, their support is not the best. I've been waiting for a response from them for over a week to give you an idea of how bad it is. But it is better to get it back through them than using underhanded means perpetuated by people who do not have your best interests at heart. They don't care about you, they care about your money. Stay safe out there and don't let desperation let you make stupid mistakes. Now, let's chat about why are we getting banned for code swapping. It doesn't hurt anyone. Let's first talk about the terms of service. The terms of service have a few very specific things that we need to look at. And I quote, "You are granted a limited license to use the game solely for your own non-commercial entertainment purposes by accessing it with authorized, unmodified Star Stable software. You may not use the game for any other purpose or in connection with any other software." End quote. So, any third-party program that you are running that is modifying the game experience, not files, not anything else, is against terms of service. But to make it absolutely clear, there's more, and I quote, "You agree not to modify or cause to be modified any files that are part of the game in any way, modify, translate, or otherwise create derivative works based on Star Stable, alter or attempt to alter, decompile, reverse engineer, disassemble, or otherwise reduce Star Stable to a human-readable form, except to the extent applicable laws specifically prohibit such restrictions. And finally, create any other software, product, or service that incorporates Star Stable." End quote. Better SSO really does tick most of these boxes, doesn't it? But the point that I'm making here is that these are the terms of service you agree to, and even if what you're doing is not technically hurting other players or hurting the gameplay, it is still against terms of service. Another point is that cheat promoters or hack promoters or whatever you want to call yourself, if you are using Star Stable's logo to promote your service, you can get into trouble because that directly violates DMCA. Good luck with that. But it gets a little bit more interesting when we consider circumvention. Circumvention is when you avoid or get around rules or regulations laid down. Anti-circumvention law is, and I quote, "Anti-circumvention refers to laws which prohibit the circumvention of technological barriers for using a digital good in certain ways which the rights holders do not wish to allow." The requirement for anti-circumvention law was globalized in 1996 with the creation of the World Intellectual Property Organization's Copyright Treaty. In the case of Star Stable, they laid down very specific rules for this service. Each code will cost you a specific amount of star coins. Certain codes should not be obtained. Certain codes will be released at certain points. If you use hacks to circumvent these rules and regulations, you are possibly committing a crime. Specifically against the anti-circumvention law that was implemented in the 1990s, and this is a worldwide law. Anti-circumvention is specifically there to protect companies from players ruining their products, software, and services. In the case of SSO, their service includes the selling of horse codes in-game. By using a hack to circumvent it, to get codes without paying, you are hurting SSO financially. It can actually be considered stealing, and by extension, that could potentially make you a criminal. In an article from Plagiarism Today entitled Copyright and Cheating in Video Games, they go into what they call legal theories. And I quote, "Though game developers have targeted cheat makers with various legal theories, 4 are the most common. Anti-circumvention. The most common claim is that the cheat software circumvents some protection the developers use. This can include decrypting files, circumventing file integrity tools, and more. This is the most common argument and routinely the most successful." If we follow that link, it takes us to another article from Torrent Freak, which goes, "Call of Duty cheat maker engine owning sued by Activision under the DMCA." And I quote, "Activision has filed a copyright infringement lawsuit against business entities and individuals allegedly offering cheats for its Call of Duty games. According to the complaint, the defendants supply tools via engine-owning.2 that violate the anti-circumvention provisions of the DMCA, spoil the game experience for legitimate players, and damage Activision's reputation." They continue to say, "In order for hacks and cheats to work, they must be able to prevent or avoid detection by the anti-cheat software that Activision puts into their games. According to Activision, this means that the cheating software is comprised of or contains technologies that are primarily designed to circumvent technological measures that control access to its games." But the point is that, yes, circumvention is a bit of a problem, that using third-party engines to circumvent technologies can possibly get you into some hot water if Star Stable decides to crack down on this. I can already hear upon the mountains people screaming, "Private servers!" And yeah, private servers exist, and yes, they do circumvent, and yes, they do create these very delicious places for you to go and play. And when private servers go to court, they often end up getting completely destroyed by the law, because even by the most basics of standards, they are taking away money from the company. And this also means that spoiler accounts are possibly also breaking this TOS. I know, we love our spoiler accounts, and C.C Creations has been a godsend for many, many years. But if Star Stable decided to ban their account, they would be absolutely within their rights, because they are still altering the code on their end and showing things that SSO had not planned to show yet. It still goes against the anti-circumvention law. Oh dear. So let's briefly discuss the idea that Star Stable used AI in order to detect and eventually ban all of these players. Now, for those of you who might not know, AI has been used in cheat detection for a very long time. The reason for this is quite simple. The size and scopes of these games are simply too big to handle for individual people or for a group of people to just keep checking and checking and checking. So what they do is they use artificial intelligence, or AI, to kind of scan all of the accounts and check for anomalies that I mentioned earlier. For example, in the ACM Digital Library, they have an article that goes, "Cheat detection in a multiplayer first-person shooter using artificial intelligence tools." This thing was written in November of 2020, so this has been a part of companies for a very long time. Because the cheating problem is constantly growing, they do need to use tools in order to detect them. Now, whether the players were banned by the AI system is another question entirely, and not one that I can answer. According to Star Stable, they did not use AI to ban people. They did that with human moderation. So it could be that the AI simply detected the problems, and then the human moderators came in and they checked whether it was a false flag or a real flag, and then made a decision based on that information. This is of course speculation, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't go too deeply into the artificial intelligence situation, because I simply don't know. I did ask Star Stable, they still haven't gotten back to me. Their support isn't that great. It's been 8 days. Would you please respond? I would love it if you would respond. But let's close the video off. I want to end this video with a question. Why do people cheat or hack? The most common answer to this is "I'm bored," and this answer might frustrate or confuse people who do not cheat. But the term "I'm bored" can easily be switched out with "I'm disappointed." Players who go through the time and effort to find cheats and hacks are not always bad faith people. They are often people who love the game and want to enjoy it as much as they once did. I'm not saying this to excuse them or to say that they are right for breaking terms of service, but rather to help people who haven't cheated or can't understand it, to help them understand why others might do so. I mentioned earlier the Better SSO server, a Star Stable private server that allows players to play the older version of Star Stable. As of making this video, this server has over 15,000 members, and it's still growing. It just shows you how much people loved the original Star Stable and how much they yearn for a game that they once loved. Star Stable has changed a lot. Where before it was a darker, heavier story with surprising twists and deep mystery, it has sort of evolved into a cozy, happy game of silliness or cuteness. The old style and feeling has been all but devoured, and what we have been left with is something more or less aimed at kids, where the original could easily have been enjoyed by anyone. I will add to this that changing the game is not always bad. I do feel that Star Stable has been adding more gameplay and more to do, which has appeased players, but the original flavor of the game has been completely boiled away. And this isn't the only problem. Star Stable often makes decisions or changes to their game to the detriment of players, chopping away rewards to force more grind, like the newest gardening bug. Gardening in the game offered players a chance to get Jorvik shillings and in-game currency that allows you to purchase mostly gear. Many of the clothes, saddles and gear in Star Stable cost anything from around 3,000 Jorvik shillings to around 9,900 Jorvik shillings. You have a cap of 10,000 Jorvik shillings. You can imagine how frustrating that is. But the main problem is the grind. You have to grind an insane amount in order to be able to buy one item of clothing. And keep in mind, a full set contains all rider items plus horse items. Here is a brief breakdown of how much it will cost you to get these items. Now, this change meant that players got a lot less Jorvik shillings. They nerfed the gardening by at least half. They claimed it was a bug, one that had been in the game for over a year, and players are now demanding that SSO put the damn bug back, because this is what made the game at least a little bit more fun to play. And the reason it was more fun to play is because this bug gave players some control over their finances. They could accumulate it faster, and this gave them some spending money, and this gave them motivation to continue playing, because this allowed them to buy the items they want without spending even more money on premium currency on top of an $80 price tag for their game. By nerfing the gardening, they essentially killed players' enthusiasm. And this happens a lot in Star Stable. I also mentioned earlier that players pay more in certain countries than in others. You can imagine how someone in America might feel compared to someone in, say, Turkey. Some can afford it, others simply cannot, and for a fraction of the price you pay, other people get the exact same thing you're getting. Frustration breeds contempt, and there is a lot of frustration to go around in this community. With that being said, banning cheaters and hackers was the correct thing to do. The servers are, according to many, running more smoothly. The players are feeling a lot happier, and hopefully some players will be kept safe. The servers can breathe. I just hope this wasn't a one-time thing and that Star Stable remains vigilant, because cheaters aren't going away and they're going to have to keep fighting this fight.